If you dropped a crisp $20 bill on the sidewalk, you wouldn't just leave it there,
Well,
right?
you'd pick it up immediately.
Exactly. You'd stop, turn right around, and grab it. Yet, every single day, we just sort of casually toss away something vastly more valuable.
Time.
Right. Minutes and hours. And we barely even notice we're doing it until we're, lying in bed, exhausted, just wondering where the entire day went.
Yeah, it's a very universal, very frustrating feeling.
It really is. So, welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive, where we are going to figure out exactly where all that time goes. Today, we're dissecting this really fascinating excerpt from a YouTube channel called Speak English with Class.
Which is, honestly, incredibly deceptive. Because on the surface, this is a resource built specifically for language learners.
Right.
But when you strip away that language learning context, what you're actually looking at is a highly sophisticated masterclass in behavioral psychology. I mean, it covers cognitive load management, habit formation, all of it.
Yeah. And so the mission for our deep dive today is to take these practical strategies and apply them to literally anything you want to master. We are looking at how to systematically stop leaking time and start actually investing it.
And doing that without triggering that suffocating feeling of being completely overwhelmed, which is key.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we fix anything, we have to establish the baseline of what wasted time actually means. And the source points out that it's not what most people think.
Yeah, that's a crucial starting point. The source defines wasted time simply as using your time for something that is neither important nor helpful to you.
Which sounds simple, but it's actually profound.
It really is. What I appreciate about this definition is that it completely strips away any moral judgment.
Right, no guilt.
Exactly. It's not about feeling guilty for not being some relentless productivity machine. It simply asks a really pragmatic question. Is this specific activity serving your current needs?
Yeah.
It introduces this concept of being highly intentional, like operating by conscious choice rather than just default programming.
And to illustrate that, they use this incredibly striking visual of a water bottle.
Oh, the water bottle analogy is great.
Right. So imagine your daily allocation of time as a finite amount of water in a bottle. You only have so much. If you pour it out onto the floor, either accidentally or just carelessly, you can't scoop it back up and drink it later.
It's just gone.
It is gone forever.
Yeah, it forces you to view time as a tangible, strictly limited resource. Once you pour that water out on activities that don't help you grow, don't move you forward, and this is critical, don't actually help you rest, it's just a puddle on the floor.
Let's talk about that illusion of rest, because the source shares a scenario that I think is painfully recognizable for basically everyone listening.
Oh, the scrolling trap.
Yes. So someone is working, they hit a wall of brain fog, and they decide to take a 10-minute break to recharge. So they sit on the sofa, pull out their phone, and open it to watch, like just one quick, funny video.
Which is a completely rational intention. I mean, you need to downregulate your nervous system.
But then the algorithm takes over.
Always.
One video autoplays right into another. The brain says, just one more. And suddenly an hour and 15 minutes have just evaporated. And the kicker is, they don't feel refreshed.
Not at all.
They feel hollow, slightly guilty, and honestly, significantly more drained than before they even sat down. The source beautifully describes it as watching sand fall through open fingers. You just watch it vanish with zero control.
And that feeling of being drained there, it's entirely neurological.
But wait, let me challenge that premise for a second.
Sure.
Because we hear a lot about diffuse mode thinking, right? The idea that letting your mind wander and just detach from a problem is actually essential for creativity. If I'm exhausted, shouldn't letting my brain zone out on a social media feed be the perfect way to access that diffuse state?
See, that is a very common misconception, and it really comes down to the mechanics of what your brain is actually doing in that moment.
Okay, how so?
Well, diffuse mode is when your attention is genuinely relaxed. Like when you're taking a shower or walking in the woods, your mind is wandering. But when you're scrolling on a phone, your mind is absolutely not wandering.
Oh, right, because of all the content.
Exactly. You are forcing your brain to rapidly process a high-density stream of highly contrasting stimuli. I mean, in a span of 60 seconds, you might process a comedy sketch, a political argument, a tragedy, and a cooking tutorial.
Jeez, yeah. So the brain is actually working overtime.
Completely. Your prefrontal cortex has to constantly unload and reload your working memory just to make sense of every new piece of context.
Wow.
And that rapid context switching burns through metabolic energy glucose at an astonishing rate. It is the cognitive equivalent of sprinting in a dozen different directions. That's why you feel exhausted. It isn't rest, it's high-speed, passive consumption.
Which perfectly explains the source's ultimate diagnostic tool for wasted time, which is the feeling of regret.
Yes, the regret test.
If you finish an activity and your immediate internal reaction is, why did I just do that? I could have used that time for literally anything else. That's your biological compass signaling that you didn't actually rest.
Yeah.
Just poured your water on the floor.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that aimless scrolling is almost always a symptom of choice paralysis.
Choice paralysis.
Yeah. When we have a pocket of free time, but we don't have a specific destination for our attention, the brain just defaults to the path of least cognitive resistance.
The shiny screen.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the source's first major counter-strategy for this. Bypassing that executive function overload by creating a tiny plan. And, the emphasis on the word tiny is everything here. They compare your daily plan to putting coordinates into a GPS.
It's a really perfect analogy. A vague goal is like putting a vague address into your car's navigation system.
Like just typing in New York.
Right. If you say, my goal today is to get healthier or improve my coding skills, the GPS cannot route that. It's too ambiguous. You might be in motion, but you're just driving in circles, wasting petrol. A tiny plan, on the other hand, provides exact coordinates, like today, I will learn 3 specific vocabulary words.
I always think about it like cognitive friction. A massive, vague goal like, I'm going to study for 1 full hour today, is basically like trying to pack a suitcase by standing across the room and just throwing clothes at it.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. It's exhausting, half the stuff misses the bag, and nothing fits right. The amount of activation energy required just to begin is terrifying, so you avoid it. But a tiny plan is clear. It removes the friction of figuring out what to do. You just fold one shirt and put it in the bag.
And the source illustrates this beautifully with a language learner who initially promised themselves they would study for a full hour every day.
A classic mistake.
Predictably, the amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center, sensed that massive cognitive load and immediately triggered an avoidance response.
It literally saw the 1-hour study session as a threat.
Physiologically, yes. So they skipped days, they felt massive guilt, and they made 0 progress.
But then they recalibrated, right?
They did. They changed the promise to just 10 minutes a day. And because 10 minutes doesn't trigger that threat response, they actually sat down and did it.
Lowering the barrier to entry just completely eliminates the paralysis of choice. When you have a free moment, you don't have to expend your precious mental energy asking, okay, how do I tackle this giant 1-hour block? You already know exactly what to do.
You just learn the 3 words.
Yeah. The tiny plan neutralizes the friction of starting. Okay, so if the friction is neutralized, the immediate objection that always surfaces, and I hear this all the time, is where do I actually find the time to do this?
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're listening right now, you are likely juggling work, family, health, maybe a dozen other responsibilities. Finding extra time feels legitimately impossible. But the source introduces a framework that completely dismantles that excuse. They call it pocket time.
Which is a profound shift in how we value our minutes.
It really is. They ask us to imagine time as a currency, like a pile of coins. Culturally, we are obsessed with the big coins, the solid, uninterrupted 1 or 2 hour blocks of time.
Right, the golden hours.
Exactly. We operate under this false assumption that if we don't possess a massive 1-hour coin, we are practically bankrupt and can't achieve anything. Meanwhile, we completely ignore all the small change rattling around in our pockets.
The 3 minutes waiting for the kettle to boil.
Yes.
The 5 minutes standing at the bus stop. The 7 minutes sitting in the doctor's waiting room.
And they share this incredibly grounded story to back this up. It's about a working mother with 2 children. She was desperate to learn English, but told her friend, I literally never have 1 full hour to myself. It simply doesn't exist.
Which is totally valid.
Very valid. But once she started looking for pocket time, she realized she was actually wealthy. She had 5 minutes walking to the bus. She had 10 minutes at the end of her lunch break. She had 7 minutes right before she went to sleep.
And this is where the neuroscience of learning makes this strategy so incredibly powerful.
How so?
Most people assume that studying for an hour straight is the absolute best way to learn. But neurobiologically, spending those small coins like studying for 5 minutes multiple times throughout the day is actually vastly superior for memory retention.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Why is fragmented learning better than deep hour-long focus?
It leverages something called the spacing effect.
Okay.
When you study for an hour, your brain encodes the information once. But when you review material for 5 minutes, let it go, and then recall it again a few hours later during your next pocket of time, you are forcing your brain to reconstruct that memory pathway from scratch.
Oh, so the effort of remembering it again is what cements it.
Exactly. Every time you reconstruct the memory, you physically thicken the myelin sheath around those specific neurons, which makes the recall faster and much more permanent.
Wow.
That mother's compounding progress wasn't just about finding hidden time. She was accidentally optimizing her brain's natural encoding process.
That is mind-blowing. The fragmentation is actually the secret weapon.
It really is.
But, okay, here is the practical hurdle. I can easily identify my 5 minutes of pocket time while the coffee is brewing in the morning. But the habit of pulling out my phone and opening Instagram is so deeply, physically ingrained in my muscle memory. How do we actually overcome the friction of using that 5-minute window for learning instead of just scrolling?
Well, this is exactly why the tiny plan and pocket time have to exist symbiotically. They rely on each other.
Make that connection for me.
If you have a 5-minute pocket of time, but your goal is vaguely to study, the cognitive mismatch is too great. The friction wins, and muscle memory just opens the social media app.
Because studying feels too big for 5 minutes.
Exactly. But if your goal is micro-sized, like read 5 lines of a story, it perfectly fits the geometry of that 5-minute coin. You don't have to deliberate or psych yourself up. You just execute the tiny plan.
The small coin buys the small goal. I love that. But even with a tiny plan, we still have to actively defend those coins from what the source calls time thieves.
Yes. The elements of our environment that are explicitly engineered to steal our attention without offering any genuine value in return.
The source gives a very tactical, relatable example of this. You're sitting on the edge of the bed, intending to reply to just a single email. That's the intention. But the environment is booby-trapped.
Oh, they always are.
A notification pops up for a news alert, which leads to a stressful article, which devolves into scrolling through short clips and angry comment fights. Before you know it, the time thief hasn't just stolen your pocket time, it has completely hijacked your emotional state. Your brain is full, but it's empty of actual knowledge.
And trying to fight that hijacking with pure willpower is just a losing battle. Willpower is just another finite resource that depletes throughout the day.
Right. So instead of relying on willpower, the source advocates for architectural changes in environmental design. They talk about locking the door against the thieves.
Which is the best defense.
Leaving the phone in another room while executing your tiny plan. Turning off notifications for an hour. Or establishing an inflexible rule that social media is only unlocked after the tiny plan is completed.
It's really about putting physical and digital friction between you and the distraction while simultaneously removing the friction between you and your goal.
But I see a potential trap here. If we build all these walls and we force ourselves to execute these tiny plans using sheer discipline, aren't we just turning learning into a miserable chore?
That's a risk, yeah.
I mean, if the house is locked against thieves, but it's miserable inside, the brain is going to find a way to break out.
That is a highly astute observation, and it touches on the biological limits of discipline. If learning feels like a punishment, your brain immediately perceives it as a stressor. And when that happens, cortisol floods your system.
And what does cortisol do to the learning process?
It actively impairs it. What's fascinating here is that when cortisol levels spike, the brain diverts metabolic resources away from the hippocampus, which is the region responsible for consolidating new declarative memories, and shifts it toward the amygdala for survival and emotional regulation.
Oh, wow.
You literally cannot encode information efficiently when you are stressed or bored.
Which perfectly sets up the source's next crucial directive, which is you have to make the tiny plan fun. You have to actively bypass that threat response.
Precisely. By connecting the learning process to something intrinsically enjoyable, you replace the cortisol with dopamine.
And the source gives some great fun examples of this. They talk about printing out the lyrics to your favorite songs and just singing them in the shower to practice pronunciation. Or watching a compelling short series with subtitles until your brain starts automatically matching the audio to the meaning without any effort.
It's brilliant.
It's like a Trojan horse for your brain. You are smuggling the cognitive development inside the packaging of pure entertainment.
And when dopamine is present during a learning event, it acts like a save button for the brain.
A save button.
Yeah, it literally signals to the hippocampus that this information is valuable and should be retained. Which is also why the source emphasizes what they call being your own coach, which is basically engineering your own positive reinforcement.
Right. They suggest that immediately after finishing your tiny plan, you should explicitly acknowledge it. Like literally saying to yourself, good job, I used my time well today.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, it sounds almost too simple, maybe even a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
How much impact does saying good job actually have?
It has a profound physiological impact. We tend to dismiss self-praise as, self-help fluff, but it is a functional mechanism for habit loop closure.
Okay, break that down for me.
The habit loop requires a cue, a routine, and a reward. When you intentionally pause to acknowledge your success, you artificially trigger a microspike of dopamine.
There's the dopamine again.
Exactly. And that dopamine spike retroactively reinforces the behavior you just completed, making your brain actually crave that feeling again tomorrow. You are manually wiring the habit into your basal ganglia.
That's incredible. So we've talked about ruthlessly auditing our time, harvesting every 5-minute pocket, neutralizing time thieves, and constantly gamifying our growth. But I can easily see how someone listening to this might start feeling a different kind of stress.
So the pressure to perfectly monetize every waking second.
Exactly. It sounds suspiciously like toxic hustle culture.
And that is the great paradox of time management. If you apply all these tools without a governor, you will inevitably accelerate straight into burnout. The system collapses if it isn't balanced.
Which is exactly why the source's final concept is arguably the most important one we're discussing today. They make an absolute, definitive statement. Rest is not wasting time.
It is the biological prerequisite for everything else we've discussed today.
They use the analogy of a smartphone battery, which is incredibly apt because we all intimately understand how our devices work.
Oh yeah, we panic when it hits 20%.
Right. So if you run your phone all day, you're streaming high-definition video, running the GPS, keeping the screen at maximum brightness, and you refuse to ever plug it into the wall, the battery inevitably hits zero. The phone dies. It becomes an expensive, useless brick.
And human physiology operates on the exact same principle of energy depletion and recharge.
The source shares an anecdote about a night where one of the hosts was determined to be, quote-unquote, productive. Their mental battery was at 1%, but they tried to force their way through a complex project late at night.
We've all done it.
Oh, absolutely. They spent 2 agonizing hours staring at a screen, producing work that was, frankly, garbage. They finally gave up, went to sleep, and the next morning, fully charged, they completed the exact same task in 30 minutes, and the quality was infinitely better.
So what does this all mean neurologically? Well, it's the law of diminishing returns in action. When your cognitive battery is low, your prefrontal cortex just flat out struggles to maintain focus.
You just can't do it.
Right. But more importantly, true rest-like deep sleep, or even just staring at a window, engages what neuroscientists call the default mode network.
The default mode network.
This is the background processing system of the brain. When you stop actively focusing, the default mode network takes all those tiny pieces of information you gathered during your pocket time and physically wires them together. It consolidates them into long-term memory.
So the growth doesn't actually happen while you're studying. It happens while you're resting.
Exactly. Rest isn't a break from productivity. It is the mechanism of productivity. Sometimes resting is objectively smarter than pushing. Refilling the water bottle is just as important as where you pour it.
We have covered incredible ground today, just extracting the hidden behavioral psychology from what appeared to be a simple language tutorial.
It's been a great analysis.
To bring it all back to a simple, actionable playbook from the source, there are basically 4 steps. 1, choose one tiny goal for today, like literally learning 3 words. 2, decide when to do it by finding your pocket time.
The small coins.
Exactly. 3, make it fun to bypass the cortisol. Use a song or a show. And 4, be your own coach. Trigger that dopamine by saying something kind to yourself when you finish.
Because the ultimate takeaway here isn't about becoming a hyper-optimized robot.
Right.
It's about intentionality. Your time is the only truly non-renewable resource you possess. You don't have to be perfect with it. You just need to be slightly more conscious of where the water is flowing. Every minute spent this way isn't wasted, it's invested.
It is invested in your future self. Which leaves us with one final thought for you to explore on your own. We've used the concept of time as currency extensively today. If you truly treated your time like cash, what would happen if you audited your own pocket time for just one single day tomorrow?
That would be a revealing audit.
If you tallied up every 3-minute wait for the elevator, every 5-minute gap before a meeting, every 10-minute commute, you might discover that you were sitting on a fortune of minutes, completely unaware of your own wealth. You're actually a millionaire in minutes, but you've just been spending it in the wrong currency. The only question left is, what will you buy with those minutes tomorrow?